nothing's really good or bad. It's just if you want the outcome or if you don't want the outcome of that, you know?
Mm.
Like if you look at, well, yeah, anyway.
Well, in that same vein, and we can get off this in a second. Um, do you believe in moral relativity?
I actually believe in moral objectivity now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but before I used to believe that everything was relative and that everything was more subjective, but my opinions have definitely changed on that. At this point now I do believe in objective morality.
And would you pause at a certain religion that brings associated rules or whatnot?
You know, it's hard to say because I do believe in Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard to say, it's hard to like put any certain religion on it just because of how um because like there's so many people who could be religious, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have God in their lives. And then um, in the counter way, there could be people who are not religious, but they genuinely have Jesus in their lives, and you can see it in them. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can see it in the way that they live. And then there's, like I said, then there's like, other religions, like maybe Catholics or Christians who might be religious, but they don't have the true like
Right.
understanding of Jesus and who he was and like living
Mm-hmm.
by that nature in their lives. But I think that learning about Jesus and who he is and the way that he lived his life to me is like the truth.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I mean, most people confuse the historical figure, which is well documented, with
Mm-hmm.
the relationship with Jesus, which is it leaves reality more or less and goes into the super reality or the supernatural, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's always an interesting conversation as far as how do we ground our moral decisions or moral judgments. Can everything be relative? I'm like, oh, well, Hitler thought this was what he was doing was right, and he believed it wholeheartedly, and he had a lot of people that agreed with him, and his sector, his area, his region, they followed him
Mm-hmm.
blindly. Is he right or wrong? I'm like, well, I can't really say because everyone has their own perspective, and every situation is different. And like you hear all these cliche defenses. I'm like, is he right or wrong? And then look at what Americans do historically.
Mm-hmm.
Look at our armies. Look at our infantry and what we did in different countries.
Yeah,
It looks pretty similar.
it
Were we
does.
right or wrong?
Or
Again,
wrong.
so we try to define evil and we apply it to Hitler. And I'm like, well, it looked like the U.S. was doing a lot of that same stuff too.
Yeah.
Is it evil? And again, nobody wants to stick their the flag in the ground and pick a side because now we have to stick with that
Mm-hmm.
definition. It's going to apply to anything it applies to. So it's always interesting to I love cornering people with questions and
I
like
think
it's just
that's
a
good.
simple question, but nobody wants to answer it because we just happen to see that in real time with the congressional hearings. Just it's a simple question and yet it has so many ramifications and consequences if you attempt to pick a side.